So Ian Garry's been getting into a little scuffle with the MMA Guru. We also have new fight announcements. Jalin Turner has stepped in to fight Bobby Green. We also have Joe Pipher coming back to take on Jack Hermansson. Guys, we have a lot to talk about. The first thing I want to discuss is the Ian Garry situation with MMA Guru. Now, you guys know that I've been covering Ian Garry for a long time. I've been observing the Irishman, the up-and-comer himself. I didn't know how bad things were until I watched the MMA Guru's video yesterday on Ian Garry, because he posted on Instagram talking about how his wife, I forget her name, Layla or whatever, is totally not manipulative. And if she was, then he would have a serious sit-down conversation with her. And he was saying, you're not a wag. You're not a wag. If you were a wag, I wouldn't be with you.
If you were a wag, if you had any of these things.
It turns out she wrote a book on how to be a wag. If you don't know what a wag is, it's essentially a woman that aspires to cling on to an aspiring athlete who will one day be successful. It's like a gold digger specifically for athletes. And what I really want to get to, because we know what the deal is now, and I didn't know how bad it was, because it is clear at this point that Ian Garry is blinded by delusion, right? It's right in front of his face. And essentially, I do not think that us being real with Ian Garry and setting him straight and telling him what's in front of his face is going to work. And I've actually come up with a plan on how to save Ian Garry from the situation that he's in. Because right now, as we speak, it's Thanksgiving. And Ian Garry, guys, is out here eating his little tofurkey, the plant-based turkey. His wife is at the table with the kid and the ex-husband, and they're eating turkey and gravy with butter and tallow and, of course, bone broth, and there are full bowls for everyone except for Ian Garry. And I totally understand that. He's eating his little tofurkey with his tofu plant-based turkey. He's eating his pea protein soy boy bites as well. His little frosted peanut butter frosties, his sweetie little treaties after. And I think that at this point, given that it's right in front of his face and he's just not able to recognize how severely manipulated he might be, I think we actually should care about like getting this guy to snap out of it. Because think about it, there's a whole country, millions of Irishmen that love watching MMA, that want to have a good representative. And Ian Garry's skilled. He's talented. You cannot deny that. As a fighter, he's really good. How long will he be able to maintain that if he doesn't have the durability the longer he's on this diet, right? He's on a vegan diet. Things aren't looking so good. He's being kicked out of his gym. He's been separated from his longtime striking coach because, again, he's a little bit of a tyrant. He's starting to act like little Lord Fauntleroy, like he runs the place wherever he's at. He's gone to Brazil, but I don't think he's around the right people right now. Don't get me wrong. He's around Charles Oliveira, but he's a bit of a prima donna. Charles Oliveira is a guy that's dramatic as well, and maybe their personalities can mix well. But I think what Ian Garry really needs, instead of someone like Sean Strickland, like a really straightforward person to set him straight, like MMA Guru to call him out and say what's what, because that's just kind of necessary as well for people to call out what's going on, because he's so unbelievably blinded by delusion. One thing that he can do is he could train with David Goggins for a week, okay? David Goggins would be the perfect guy to break Ian Garry and to humble him in a hell week, just like Tony Ferguson. Now, it may not be good for his body, but neither is being on a vegan diet. I'll take a hell week with David Goggins and some little nagging injuries with it than a whole lifetime of suffering on, having your malnutrition and suffering from deficiencies and being weaker by the day. And I just think that if he were to train with David Goggins, that would be something that, would be life-changing. It'd be humiliating, but in the short term. And I think that David Goggins could really get in his head and, break him down. And I think that could be good for him. I think that could change him. Another thing that he could do is he could go and sit in the darkness with Yuri Prohaska for a week. So it's either one of the two darknesses, because I think they need to, again, take him to a dark place. He's got to think for himself. And I think that's what he has to do to change. We need Ian Garry to be purified through darkness, okay? Through suffering. And I'm not saying the guy doesn't train hard. He definitely does. But he's out there, frolicking around with Charles Oliveira, right? Playing soccer, playing football. For you guys that are going to freak out because I'm saying soccer. But my point is, he's out there playing soccer. Charles Oliveira is playing Brazilian gospel music, and he's got tears in his eyes at all times. He's saying Mamma Mia. And you know what? Like, listen, dude, I just don't love that for Ian Garry. I think he's around prima donnas. Now, don't get me wrong. Shootbox is a gym filled with gritty, hungry fighters from the favelas. Hard men. I totally understand that, but David Goggins is harder than them all. Ian Garry needs to train with David Goggins, okay? Essentially. Or choose your darkness, right? As they say, pick your poison. Go and sit there in the dark room for a couple of weeks with Yuri. Now, I know Yuri Prohaska might not want Ian Garry bouncing off the walls and driving him crazy. Yuri likes his peace and quiet. But I really do think that sitting in a log cabin with Yuri Prohaska could do wonders for Ian Garry. Because again, yes, we need people to make things apparent. We need people to call out bullshit. But it's right in front of his face. Like, he is literally with a woman that wrote a book called How to Be a Wag years before she started dating him. And he's in her face saying, if you were a wag, I wouldn't be with you. And it's just, how the fuck can you not see? It's right in front of your eyes. You're blindfolded by delusion. I don't think I've ever seen someone that's this delusional, this in denial. Anthony Smith, totally different case because it's more about his fighting and where he stands in the division, the light heavyweight division, in comparison to other fighters based on skill. For Ian Garry, it's getting in the way of this guy's life and he's being manipulated. And I think that we need to save this man. And we need to get him into a dark room with Yuri, or we need to have him train with David Goggins so that Goggins could break him. Okay? I would love to be a fly on the wall with David Goggins chirping at Ian Garry and cussing him out, and Ian Garry being absolutely humbled so that by the end of it, he finally realizes he's full of shit, he's delusional, and it's time to make a change. Or imagine the demons he would face, he would run into with Yuri Prohaska. We need to hit up Yuri Prohaska, snatch and grab, bring him to the dark room. Yuri Prohaska is someone that will welcome that. Now, he may not want to be with Ian Garry during that process because Ian Garry might get a little bit annoying. He might get a little bit talkative. So we can have Yuri Prohaska build himself a separate log cabin for Ian Garry to sit in, so that they can at least both be in the same realm. Okay. And for Goggins, we just have to, Ian Garry loves to do new videos and he loves to film workouts and whatnot. And he loves to have a camera follow him around. David Goggins totally cool with that. So let's set them up for a little influencer workout and let's just have it last a week. We need someone to break Ian Garry and to have him rise like Lazarus as a new man. Okay. Next up, we have Jalin Turner stepping in to fight Bobby Green. Totally different news. What do I think about Jalin Turner and Bobby Green? I actually like this fight. It's a good matchup. I'm happy that they didn't give him a grappler. I know RDA was getting antsy and RDA wanted to jump in there. I think that the right matchup for a guy like Bobby Green, who is just not going to be a champion, even though he just knocked out a grappler and he proved that he could have a good fight with one. But it was like a 30-second fight. I want to see a scrap. I want to see a good old-fashioned striking battle with the longtime UFC veteran Bobby Green. But Jalin Turner is a little bit too much of a tall task, in my opinion, because he has the power advantage. And I was going to pick someone like Dan Hooker to beat Bobby Green because he's a little bit more durable and he's a little bit more powerful. And essentially, Jalin Turner is a heavy pressure guy, and Bobby Green likes people that put pressure on him. But I think that when it comes down to like having a little scrap, I think that Jalin Turner is the guy that I prefer more. I think that he has the ability to mix in the grappling. I think he's going to be better in the clinch. And I just think that he's going to be able to last a little bit longer in a war of attrition, whereas Bobby Green, who's been knocked out a couple of times in his career, who's a little bit older, who doesn't have a lot of pop in his hands despite him knocking out someone like Grant Dawson, I just think I favor Jalin Turner a little bit. It is on short notice, and Jalin Turner did slow down quite a bit against Dan Hooker. It's only going to be a 3-rounder now, which is also interesting. So there's a chance Bobby Green could just slow him down. But it's like, how is he going to do that? The Bobby Green doesn't have like this ability to go out there. Not saying he doesn't have the ability, but he doesn't go out there and clinch with people and slow them down. He strikes with them from the get-go and drags them into a little, boxing match. So I kind of favor Jalin Turner in this fight. I think he might even finish Bobby Green. And that's that. I don't think Jalin Turner's as good as I once did, but I also kind of recognize where Bobby Green's at. And I think that they're on a similar level, but Jalin Turner at this point is just a little bit more durable, and I think he's a little bit more dangerous. So the next fight that we have is Joe Pipher and Jack Hermansson. Jack Hermansson coming back after a long hiatus. And you know what? At first, I was really upset when they made this fight. Dana White announced Jack Hermansson, and I said, oh, fuck, Jack Hermansson, man, because he rings the same bell as Neil Magny. You hear Jack Hermansson, you know you're in for a boring fight. But I'm kind of happy to see the Joker return. We haven't seen this guy in action for years. for whatever reason. Maybe it's been injuries. And I think it's a good step up in competition for Joe Pipher, who beat Abdul Razak Al Hassan. And I kind of wanted Pipher to fight someone like Hernandez or Roman Kopylov, because I don't like how the UFC is always separating the young up-and-coming guys from each other because they want to build them individually and they're worried that one of them is going to cancel the other out. I actually want to see guys fight when they're young and they're close to their prime. For example, Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich, the reason why fans were so excited for that was because both guys were young and in their prime, and we want to see the best young up-and-coming prospects fight each other. Hermansson's not a prospect, but it's a good step up in competition. I like it, and he's not an old head yet. Who am I going to pick to win that fight? I'll probably go with Joe Pipher. I think he might even chin Hermansson, and I think Hermansson's going to have a hard time out-grappling someone as big as Joe Pipher that's also a good grappler on the ground. So, yeah, guys, let me know what you think of these fights. Happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's hope that Ian Garry can get in contact with Yuri Prohaska or David Goggins.
What's up, guys? It's Lucas Tracy, MMA, and I'm wondering if you're trying to look like Yoel Romero. Well, if you don't have his genetics, that's impossible, but I could at least help you get halfway there with my ultimate lifting program, and if you're a beginner, my novice lifting program. These are programs that I've used my 9 years of experience in the gym to make so that you can put on as much muscle as possible in as little amount of time as possible. And it'll also give you a variety of workouts so that you never get tired of the gym. So if you're interested, click the link in my description. And for a discount, use code MMA for 30% off.